First game of this 4-game West Coast road trip for the Panthers as they meet the LA Kings on Sunday night at the Crypto.com arena. The Florida Panthers definitely did, however, leave a point on the table. We're going to discuss how the Florida Panthers left a point on the table. What does this mean for the Florida Panthers to the rest of this trip? And also a breakdown of Sunday's action across the NHL. All on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, March 14th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherBarkway.com. You can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. You can also follow the national show Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. Will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Cats fans, it's a late edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm recording this episode maybe about an hour after the final buzzer went off. Got a little bit of time to listen to the press conference, write a little bit of notes after the fact, just break this down, especially because, like many of you guys, I had some coffee right before this game. So thought about leaving this for the morning, but decided, no, I'm up at this time, get it over with and talk about the immediate reactions of this game. So as Scott Van Pelt says it on the midnight edition of SportsCenter, I'm not tired yet. So Florida Panthers, first game of this West Coast trip, this 4-game road trip, 7 road games overall. The Florida Panthers really did leave a point on the table tonight for their chances to increase their lead in the division. Well, keep the lead where it's at. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, the Florida Panthers really, they came out really firing and with a lot of energy at the beginning of the game, even though they were down in this one. They kept that energy all throughout that first period, even leading in shots 11-6. I mean, 6 out of those 11 shots for the Florida Panthers at the beginning of the game were on the power play. So those were the opportunities that the Florida Panthers really had early on. Didn't go through. They didn't get a power play goal in this game. And even though they got 2 goals in the second period, the energy of the game just automatically flipped the other way with the LA Kings. Now they were having a whole bunch of energy, and it really lasted the whole game. Spencer Knight got had a period to get himself acclimated to the game. Really, from the second period on, Spencer Knight was really at his best after giving up the first goal of the game, which is one that Spencer Knight, if you're looking at that one on the backhand by Rasmus Kapari, that's something that Spencer Knight wants back. And I mean, Spencer Knight's been up and down in the NHL and back in the AHL. In his last AHL start right before coming back up here, he didn't look his best. And after getting a win in Buffalo. So it's a little bit, the jury is still out on Spencer Knight on what he is going to be. But of course, not a prospect that you give up on. He definitely not. He goes 35 of 37 in this one, and before losing into a shootout. And I mean, going into that shootout, the Florida Panthers have a rookie in net and a 2-time Stanley Cup champion on the other end. That was always going to be advantage Jonathan Quick for the Los Angeles Kings. And not to mention that the Florida Panthers, last time around they faced against the LA Kings, the Florida Panthers were that depleted team coming into that game, and the LA Kings took advantage of beating the Florida Panthers 4-1 at the time. This time it was the other way around for the LA Kings. They were missing Matt Roy, Dustin Brown, Victor Arvidsson, Drew Doughty again. Drew Doughty didn't even play in the first matchup against the Florida Panthers because he was on the COVID list. That was when really the start of the Omicron variant taking over multiple sports leagues and around the world was really starting to begin. And the Florida Panthers had their opportunity to take advantage of one, but they left a point on the table. The Los Angeles Kings, they went into this game they were on the second end of a back-to-back after being shut out by San Jose last night, who that's the Florida Panthers' next opponent now. So big opportunity, kind of not wasted. Wasted is the wrong word. Just missed opportunity. That's the best way I could put it at that. But at the same time, for the Florida Panthers, they're going up against a team that's ahead of their rebuild, one of the best farm systems in all the NHL. I mean, they had a lot of replacements from their AHL affiliate, Ontario Reign, come into this game tonight for the Kings. So credit to the LA Kings, what they've been able to do throughout these last few years. I mean, this team left Alexander Barkov off the score sheet and didn't even allow a shot on goal by the captain. He was held without a shot in this one. I mean, Alexander Barkov got an assist, but that Philip Deneau line and the first line of Kopitar, Kempe, and if follow that one, those guys just really didn't allow Barkov to make the plays that he wanted to make. But credit to the Los Angeles Kings. Credit to them for also knowing how to come back when they're down. The Florida Panthers, the run has finally come to an end where they led going into the third period, and then they lost that lead. Now they're 30-0-1 on the season when leading after two. I mean, and the loss comes after a shootout. So does that really count in the grand scheme of things? You can make that judgment for yourself, but it stinks that run has to come to an end after that one. And even another way of looking at this is the Florida Panthers really held the lead for most of the game. The opposition scores first. They had an opportunity with a win tonight, had they held on, to get back to 500 on the road when their opponent scores first. So now they're 3-5-3 on the road when their opponent scores first. And starting off this second half of the season after the All-Star break, they got 2 in a row when their opponent scores first. And that's what helped them propel to this 5-game winning streak. Could have easily been 6. But some mental errors and some out of positioning as well. I mean, the one that's talked about all over Panther land right now is Jonathan Huberdeau losing his cool towards the end. That put the LA Kings on the power play. They scored 6-on-4, pulling Jonathan Quick. And another player that was out of position a lot, Aaron Ekblad. I mean, there was an opportunity right in front of the net where he thought he was interfered, and there was a scoring chance by Martin Furk in that one. And of course, Aaron Ekblad not having a stick as well, and Spencer Knight coming up with a stop, and that was the biggest save to that point in the third period. And then, of course, taking a tripping penalty in the overtime. Kempe speeds around him, and even though the Florida Panthers didn't allow a goal there, Aaron Ekblad multiple times defensively was just out of position in the game. But most of the time, no harm, no foul for the Panthers, but still chances that allowed the Kings possibly to possibly end this in regulation or even end it in overtime when it was tied. So the Florida Panthers, though, the penalty killing, despite giving up a power play goal towards the end, it was amazing. Don't let that 1-for-4 for the Los Angeles Kings on the power play fool you. There was a lot of times that the penalty kill looked even better in that game despite that. And we'll talk about that more coming up in the next segment. But first, we're going to tell you all about Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? It's one delicious scoop of athletic greens you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotic, adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's just one scoop of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Take it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and five free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on the second segment on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen today. And on March 31st at 3:30 Eastern, turn into Locked On Fantasy Hockey's live deadline reaction show to get all the on-ice fantasy betting advice you need from hosts Steel Rodent and Flip Livingstone with appearances from our roster of local team experts. Plus, catch your own live show at the time of the trade deadline for immediate reaction for everything related to your team. So that'll be March 31st from 3 to 4 o'clock on Monday. So continuing this conversation on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on this 3-2 shootout loss against the LA Kings. So the lines looked a little bit like this for the Florida Panthers coming into this. Carter Hagee, Alexander Barkov, Maxim Mammon, Jonathan Huberdeau, Sam Bennett, Anthony Duclair, Mason Marchment, Eetu Luostarinen, and Sam Reinhart. Anton Lundell is actually not on the trip for the Florida Panthers. Neither is Ryan Lomberg, but Joe Thornton actually does have a chance to make his return to San Jose on Tuesday night. Final line is Frank Vetrano, Noel Acciari, and Patrick Hornquist. Defensive pairings, Mackenzie Weegar and Aaron Ekblad, Gus Forsling and Radko Gudas, Petteri Lindbaum and Brandon Montour on the final pairing. And like I said in the first segment, the LA Kings had a lot of players missing in this one, and an opportunity for the Florida Panthers to get 2 road points, but only came out 1, left the point on the table. But the Panthers, it's crazy because they only went the first 2 periods with getting a penalty going their way, and there was a lot of complaints by the Panthers about officiating on this one. But Andrew Burnett even talked about it after the game that with Jonathan Huberdeau towards the end having that elbowing call against Iafallo after being tripped earlier on a breakaway with an empty net. Andrew Burnett says it's something that he knows that Jonathan Huberdeau has to be better at, but he understands why he's upset. And that possibly could have cost the Florida Panthers a chance to win that one. Regardless of whether you think of the call of a trip or not trip, Jonathan Huberdeau, that's an opportunity for him to, not shoot himself and his team in the foot on that one. But like I said, the Florida Panthers in this one, they came out with a lot of energy at first, 11-6. 6 of their 11 shots were on the power play. They're only 2 of the game in this one. And that was an encouraging sign when the Florida Panthers power play was on the ice and generating a lot of chances on Jonathan Quick. I mean, Jonathan Quick was just flashing the leather early in this one. I mean, getting all 11 saves. And Spencer Knight, like I said, there was a goal that he gave up by Rasmus Kupari that he might have wanted back. Even then, Florida being down 1-0 in that game, with the amount of chances they were generating, and the Kings being on the second end of a back-to-back, Florida, they were showing that they were attacking and creating many scoring chances. And even though Carter Hagee had a slash in the beginning of the second period, and that's something that we spoke about with Nick Fairbanks and even Jacob Winans last week, is Carter Hagee, even though he was on this streak, There are times where he could be a little sloppy or two. Same thing with Mason Marchment, of taking a penalty or two. But hey, um, Jonathan Huberdeau, he continued to create a defensive play and finding Itulu Sterainen for that shorthanded opportunity and beats Jonathan Quick to tie it at 1. And you also got to give um, Barkov credit too, even though it didn't count as a shot on goal because it deflected off of Patrick Hornquist. Very smart play for Alexander Barkov to try to put the puck onto the net, and Montour drawing in to make it 2-1 at the time at the 3:44 mark. So there it was, the Florida Panthers just scoring in the bunches that they do. I mean, those 2 goals by both Etu Lusterinen and Brandon Montour, they were just like 3 minutes and 1 second separated from each other. But then that was the 3 minutes and 1 second that the Florida Panthers offense really only generated all game. But I will give credit to the Florida Panthers on the physicality of this game. Radko Gudas got 8 hits in this one. Petteri Lindbaum, he had a hit that created a chance going the other way. And a lot of the hits that the Florida Panthers were putting on, there were puck separating hits, creating chances going the other way. So, like I said, the Gudas with 8, Petteri Lindbaum with 4. Who else? I'm looking this up quickly. Mason Marchment, once again, always getting up there. Etu Lusterinen as well, and Nola Chari. The guys you expect to have a lot of hits in this game, they came out there and firing. And the Florida Panthers, they out hit the Los Angeles Kings 31-22 in this one. So a lot of encouraging signs as far as the physicality comes for the Florida Panthers, but still, despite being up 2-1, the LA Kings really controlled possession in that game. And like I said, Aaron Ekblad not having the best game multiple times. You have a broken stick, an interference that he was too busy complaining about instead of getting back, and then of course the penalty in overtime. But it was once again the Florida Panthers, they had their chances. Carter Verhaeghe, oh my goodness, there was one that Carter Verhaeghe had an open net right in front. Jonathan Quick drew not only more than to the top of his crease, but he went outside of his crease because he thought Barkov was going to shoot, and then Barkov gets it to Verhaeghe. And Iafallo, you gotta credit to him. He shut out that lane for Carter Verhaeghe to have an open net, and I guess Verhaeghe was trying to bounce it off quick and into the goal, but I don't think that Carter Verhaeghe had the best angle on that one. And Radko Gudas, despite the 8 hits, I mean, there was a turnover that he had that left Spencer Knight all alone, and then he had a great pad save. And the second and third period, that's when Spencer Knight was really starting to get acclimated into the game. And another chance at an open net. Maxim Mammon as well had an open net and misses. But there was a lot of pressure really let into the game from that top line, and those were all coming from, once again, Alexander Barkov not getting a single shot on goal in this one. And looking at the shots from the top line of the Panthers, I mean, Carver Hagee gets one, Maxim Mammon gets one. So, and the top line, they were shooting a lot, but they weren't getting them on goal. But the open nets multiple times from that top line is really what's really hurt the Panthers in last night's game. But again, uh, there's not one thing that hurt the Panthers possibly more than Jonathan Huberdeau taking that penalty at the 18:48 mark of the third period. Of course, truth be told, he was tripped. Yes, that is a trip. The stick got in front of Huberdeau's legs, and he went forward, and it wasn't called. But there's a time in the game where the composure needs to be at a little bit of a level up. And like I said, Andrew Burnett talked about it with us after the game, saying that he understands that he's upset, but he knows that he's got to be better because Andrew Burnett has probably been in that position where he's beating to the puck, an opportunity at an empty net to possibly ice the game, and it's denied, and possibly something that is game changing. But the call by the referee isn't the reason why the Panthers lost that game. I mean, there's still plenty of opportunities, like I said, on those two open nets. But even the penalty kill, despite giving up that 6-on-4 opportunity, I mean, what more can you do when you're 6-on-4? They pull the goalie and they score. Spencer Knight had a check that the puck exited the zone, um, creating less power play time for the LA Kings. So a lot of great awareness by even Spencer Knight on the PK too. So not the worst thing, not the worst game to drop a point neither. And the Florida Panthers still have their lead in the division, even though Tampa Bay won, where we talk about that more in the next segment. But I mean, I got to give credit also to the Florida Panthers in that overtime period when after Ekblad took that penalty for being beat by Kempe. The Florida Panthers kept in that triangle, and they weren't going too far away getting out of that zone that they were in, because of course when you're 3-on-3, and of course when you have the power play, there's more ice there's more open passing lanes, and you can't draw as much outside when you're shorthanded as when you are in a regular 5-on-5 setting. And you see big penalty killers like Barkov in that situation, Etulistrainen, Mackenzie Weegar, Gus Forsling, those for example. And you got to give credit to the penalty killing, despite giving up one. So it's still on another fabulous run. Don't let the numbers fool you for what the Florida Panthers team did in this game on the PK. And of course, shootouts. So we got to talk about the shootout, unfortunately, because that's a thing in the National Hockey League. Alexander Barkov's the only one that scored for the Florida Panthers, and Kempe scored, and Moore scored for the Los Angeles Kings. Jonathan Huberdeau was denied. Sam Reinhart was denied. Etulis Turenin was denied, and Anthony Duclair was denied. And that results in a 3-2 win for the Los Angeles Kings. They win the season series, not only winning both games, but as far as points, 4-1 in this one. And the Florida Panthers, they don't have to see him again. Jonathan Quick is a pain in the ass, two-time Stanley Cup champion. Going into that shootout, it was always going to be advantage Quick in that one. So once the result happened after the shootout, I wasn't too upset about it. Going up against like I said, two-time Stanley Cup champion in Jonathan Quick. And thank goodness the Florida Panthers don't have to face them often, whether the roster is depleted or not. The Los Angeles Kings are just on a good upward trajectory as far as where they are as far as a franchise. But we're going to discuss more about where the Panthers stand as far as this weekend's actually slate of hockey games. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And it's that time of year again, as college basketball tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And also to remind you that this episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. It's that time of year where I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. Yummy, cinnamony, churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bar with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 over at Built.com. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast is the Florida Panthers drop this final game of this season series against the Los Angeles Kings 3-2 in a shootout. So, like I said, it's on to San Jose for the Florida Panthers, but a few good news around the NHL as far as the Florida Panthers' pursuit of getting as far as the top seed as they can. The Pittsburgh Penguins have defeated the Carolina Hurricanes 4-2, and they do it on 22 shots on goal to Carolina's 43. The Heritage Classic featuring the Buffalo Sabres and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs continue to struggle. They lose 5-2. So the Florida Panthers continue to have a 7-point lead on the Toronto Maple Leafs with just less than 2 weeks before facing them for the first time. So going to be an exciting matchup for sure when we get there. Winnipeg defeats St. Louis in overtime 4-3. Nashville beats Minnesota 6-2. Montreal defeats Philadelphia 4-3 in overtime. Vegas loses to the Columbus Blue Jackets, a struggling Vegas team, mind you, who the Florida Panthers will see on Thursday night. Lose to Columbus 6-4. New York defeats Anaheim 4-3. President's Trophy, the top of the President's Trophy right now, Colorado, they defeat Calgary 3-0. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are also on a West Coast swing, defeat the Vancouver Canucks by a final score of 2-1. So both Florida teams are on a West Coast swing. Tampa Bay were struggling a little bit on this road trip, to say the least. So these long road trips are not easy for any team, and the Tampa Bay Lightning went through their lumps. They just ended a 3-game losing streak. The Florida Panthers drop a point, going all the way out west, a 10 p.m. body clock time for the Florida Panthers. So dropping a point on the road and picking up at least one is not the end of the world. Of course, they should have gotten two in this one, but the lead for the Panthers with the Tampa Bay Lightning, equal amount of games, so 4 games ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I said, 7 over Toronto, and 1 point off of the Carolina Hurricanes for the top of the East. So the Carolina Hurricanes lead the East as far as points percentage, and the Colorado Avalanche, with their win and the Carolina Hurricanes losing, they return to the top spot as far as the President's Trophy. So a little bit of help that the Florida Panthers had as far as the Eastern Conference goes. So again, the Florida Panthers, if they get anywhere between 5 to 6 points in this 4-game road trip going out west, I'm going to separate the road trips based on the western part of the road trip and then the Canadian side. We'll break down the Canadian part of the trip next week and have its own thing. But let's focus on this California plus Vegas swing for the Cats. And they're going up against a San Jose Sharks team that is rebuilding. Of all the California teams, I'd have to guess that the San Jose Sharks are probably in the worst place of all the three as far as their future goes. So a chance for the Florida Panthers to really take advantage of a team that really challenged the Panthers last go round. James Reimer, they needed 45 plus shots on goal in order to get through James Reimer as the Panthers. I believe that was the game where Jonathan Huberdeau faked the spinorama to get to Sam Bennett to get the game-winning goal just a few months ago back at FLA Live Arena, which that game still to this day is the game where the Florida Panthers have had the best attendance all season. So that game against the San Jose Sharks on a Saturday night just a few weeks ago on January 29th. So yeah, that was a beautiful game to end the first half of the season. That was the last home game for the Panthers before 3 weeks off. And the Panthers are in the middle of this road trip that will separate a lot of time from between home games. And this is you couldn't ask for a perfect time to have a whole bunch of road games for the Panthers. And sure, they took it now. And you're not always going to score 4 goals in every game. And this is a great opportunity for these late game situations for the Florida Panthers to be tested so that when the playoffs do come, that they will be in better position to get those stops that they need if they're up, or get that goal with your net empty to tie a game on a 5-on-4, or in this situation for the LA Kings 6-on-4. So I didn't mind this late game situation. Of course, with how much the Florida Panthers have scored this season, it's so easy for us to be greedy and say and have the expectation of why aren't they scoring this much goals? But this is the type of play that playoff hockey is going to bring for this Florida Panthers team. And sure, they didn't pass the test this time around. Sure, they were ahead for most of it and lost it, dropped the point, but you learn and you move on from it. The Florida Panthers will have a day off tomorrow, and then the Panthers will be facing off against the San Jose Sharks, a 10:30 Eastern start time on Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks. So it's going to be even later than what we are doing right now with the Florida Panthers playing, and of course me myself recording these episodes after the fact. Right now it's 2:09 a.m. On my laptop clock as I'm seeing it right now, but we'll be doing some of these late podcasts, including Wednesday's show with Jacob Winans. At least that's the plan, and of course Friday's show with Nick Fairbanks, as we'll be breaking down the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. So so the people who didn't stay up for this game, you'll be having a recap of these games pretty much as soon as you wake up. So you'll get your Panthers recap, that's for sure. So uh, listen to Locked On Panthers all week, because we're going to be covering the Florida Panthers all throughout this Western trip. So stay up with us. Stay up with myself and my 2 guest co-hosts on Wednesday and Friday, and of course the rest of the week as we discuss the rest of this Panthers road trip. Three more games out of it before they return home, and then it's off to Canada for these Florida Panthers. So in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. They'll be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen today. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Stu Roding and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.